Well, hi, my name is Phil Tenaya, and I am here with this video, which I have entitled How to Manage Back to School Anxiety, the Matrix Method. It's a series of videos that I've been doing, and there's others that you can see, but today we're going to be looking at anxiety. So, if you or someone you know is, having some anxiety, returning to school where it seems to be getting in the way. You're right where you need to be. For teachers, you're facing new schedules, managing your expectations, along with the expectations that others might have of you, and then helping your students basically do the same thing. And students, for their part, are going to be showing up with their own brand of anxiety. And it's going to show up like resistance, reluctance, discouragement, defiance, my personal favorite. And you may also, at the same time, be a parent who has the double whammy of teaching and parenting anxious kids and teens. So I'm going to show you the approach that I use for managing anxiety in the classroom with those I serve, while also managing my own anxiety, the anxiety that shows up in me. Now, I've done this in classrooms for years, shared it with my colleagues who have also used the tool. And so there's tons of experience behind it. And also, there's a lot of science behind this too, which we're not getting into the science today. That's for another video. So, anxiety gets lots of bad press. And from an early age, we are taught to avoid it, we're taught to tame it, we're taught to control it. It's like this uninvited party guest that you are trying to ditch and you have no idea when they're going to leave. So I'm going to offer you here a different way of looking at anxiety. It's going to give you and those you serve more choices and options. So the question in the back of my head is, well, how can I set things up for myself and for my students in a way that makes all of what we're going to be doing together a little bit easier, and so this is really kind of how I go about it. So I have this diagram right here. It's called the ACT matrix, and it was developed by Dr. Kevin Polk. Pretty simple diagram, two crossed lines, got senses at the top, mind at the bottom. Over here, we have the feeling of satisfaction. Over here, we have the feeling of relief. And the question, who is important to you, is written in the lower right. Now, what I would say to you is make sure that you get this diagram up in front of people before you get started, right? You want to have all of this kind of ready, prepared before you introduce it to your students. So you have it up on a whiteboard or a blackboard or a smart board. You have it written on a piece of paper that you can refer back to it. So you say, this is my point of view. Is it okay if I show you? And then they're going to say, okay, fine. So now we're up to the showing part. And the way that I begin is I say, well, I like to start with the question, who is important to you? So I'll asking myself that question. I might answer it by saying, my wife is important to me. So I'm going to write the word wife down here. And then I'm going to say to my students, well, who might be important to you? Please share. And they do start to share. They'll start talking to their parents, friends, extended family, sports figures, whatever. They're going to put all that stuff down here. They're piling down all the important people in the lower right. Great place to start. Gets this conversation going. So now I'm going to slide over here to the lower left side of this diagram. I'm going to say, well, and then the other thing I notice is that a lot of times this yucky stuff shows up inside of me, like uncomfortable thoughts and feelings that I don't want to have. Stuff like fear, for example. So I'm going to write the word fear down here, right? And then I'm going to ask them, well, what kind of yucky stuff like fear might show up inside of you or somebody else? And guess what? They're going to start to tell you. They're getting the hang of it. Anxiety, anger, worry, stress, whatever they say. You just got to write out all that stuff down. That's yucky stuff, goes down here in the lower left. Now I come up to the upper left and I say, well, that yucky stuff, when it shows up inside of me, I have an urge. I want to do something. I want to get rid of it. I want it to go away. So you might see me when the fear shows up inside me, for example, you might see me do something like run to get rid of my fear. So I'm going to try and do the running thing, put run up here, and I'm doing it to get relief from my uncomfortable feeling of fear. So how about for these other things down here? So if they're anxiety, stress, anxiety, whatever they say, we're going to put up here the things that they do to get relief. Put their head down, leave, get on the phone, call someone, talk to someone, whatever they say. These are just things we do for relief. So we're just putting them down. So finally, over here, I'm going to ask the question, well, what might I do that's going to help me get satisfaction with the important people that are in my life? So for my wife, I might be going home today to have dinner with my wife. So I would write, have dinner. How about you? They're going to, text their friends, play a video game, have dinner with the parents, go shopping, whatever it is that they say that they do. Now we're putting those things up here in the upper right. And then I say, now remember, I said to you that this is the point of view. So, the idea here is that we can just notice all this stuff. So there's that circle in the middle. I've written the word notice here. You can write it in then, or before or after. It's okay either way, because now we're getting to, we just are noticing who's important. We're noticing yucky stuff, noticing things we do for relief, noticing things we do for satisfaction. And then I say, do you think you might have an opportunity to notice this stuff in the coming days as you're kind of going through your normal everyday things that you do? What do you think? I think I might. What do you think? Now, whether they say they will or they won't is not the point. The point is you've shown them the point of view, you've shown them how you're going to work. They will usually say, "Yeah, I might," and if they don't, that's fine too. You'll see why pretty quickly here, and then you just get on the business of doing whatever it is that you're doing. So you go about your whatever you're doing, and then here comes the uninvited party guest that might show up inside of someone, and now they've got some anxiety going on, or they report it to you, or whatever. It's there, it's in the room. So let's go now to you're gonna now do something that's going to be a different response, right? You have a moment now. And now you can offer them, because you have this tool, you can offer them a different response than what they're normally used to getting. So for myself, I'm not going to run. I am not going to deflect. I'm not going to try to force anything. There's an opportunity here. And so I have the diagram handy. I remember it. There it is. It's available. It's ready for use. And I say something like, hey, we could use that diagram that we looked at before to take a look at this situation here. What do you think? Well, there you go. So now you're in. So now I'm sharing my screen a little differently. And remember, first step, you have the matrix diagram up in front of you. There it is. And now what we can do is, there it is, right? So now we can say, they're looking at the diagram. They've got whatever they've got, whatever that uncomfortable stuff is. And we're talking about anxiety today. So let's say it's anxiety. And now what we're going to do is we're going to say something like, hey, what you just said there, what you just shared with me that you're experiencing, the question now is, where would you put that on the diagram? That's what we want them to be doing, right? So we ask this question and we say, where would you put those words you just said? You can repeat them. That experience you're having, where would you put that on the diagram? So now what you've done is, well, your job at that point is really kind of done, is from the perspective of what you're trying to do, because all you're trying to do in that moment is you're not trying to fix anxiety or do anything with anxiety. You're helping that student get some perspective on themselves to do a little self reflection. So they pause, they reflect. And now they're going to be noticing their anxiety and also where they might put it. All that happens inside of them. And it doesn't matter where they sort it on the diagram or where they put it. What matters is that you're engaging them in the process of sorting kind of in their head, reflecting. And because when they do that, they're going to get a little bit more flexible. So then they're going to say wherever they say it goes. It can go in the lower left with the yucky stuff. They could put it up there with relief moves. I've heard people talk about them put it over in with the satisfaction moves. It's fine because we're just wanting them to do this perspective taking thing. And once they do that, I'm going to say something like, my word is cool. Cool. So there you go. And you know what? I might now add when anxiety shows up in me, and if I can do just what we're doing now. You can just kind of notice it. And then for myself, I think about, well, for me, I think about my backpack. Let me see if I can bring the backpack up. There it is. Oh, okay. And so, we all have a backpack. Backpack is for what? It's for carrying stuff, right? So then I ask myself, well, gee, can I have this anxiety that I'm having, whatever it is? Can I put it in my backpack, kind of, and like take it with me? Hmm, might I be able to do something like that? So now and those you serve, you now have this thing called a tool, right? Because you've offered this up. It's a way of looking at things. Let's go back to this diagram here. There we go. And, notice I do not say, when we're talking about this, is you have this tool for discovering how to relate to anxiety when it shows up. It's not if, it's when it shows up. It's going to show up. You know it, and I know it, and they know it because it goes with the other yucky stuff that shows up in life. So we're going to get it whether we want it or not. So when we can start to look at things from a little backed up perspective and help them do the same thing, you don't have to mess with it so much. You can really just notice it. And, my metaphor here is put it in my backpack and keep going. Now, you might come up with a different way of looking at it, which is fine. You can add your own little wrinkle in there. What I have found is the metaphor works really well because everybody knows about a backpack and kids kind of get it. Oh, yeah, I could put that in my backpack and try for a little bit and do this and do that. Now, you could try to explain all this to them. And by all means, if that's what you want to do, fine, go ahead and do it. I don't do that because talking about your or someone else's anxiety is really very different from them experiencing it. Experiencing it and doing is much quicker way to go about learning, and it's more likely to lead to changes because they're there experiencing the anxiety. If it's you, myself, I'm there experiencing my anxiety. I can do the same thing. I can look at that diagram and go, where would I put what's going on inside of me right now? Where would it go? So the idea here is that by using the tool, your students can now come to view and experience anxiety as something that's what I would like to call naturally occurring. It's something that can be managed rather than avoided or fought against. And, because there's no quick fix, right? Bottom line is there is no quick fix. If I had a quick fix, I'd written a book and made $1 million by now. But experience tells us that there are no quick fixes to anxiety. There is, however, a point of view that you can use to reflect on your experiencing of anxiety, and your students can do the same thing. And you can do that anywhere, anytime, and you can do that and do things that might lead to change, try different things out, see how things work over time. So there you go. There's my little take on managing back to school anxiety. I hope you find this useful. If you do, please subscribe below. You'll get notifications when I put new content out. I will be putting new content out. Below, there's also links to some other videos where I show you how to set this up for social emotional learning, for, working with groups and some other things. If you have comments, please leave them. If there's something you want to see somewhere down the road, please let me know that as well in the comment section. And have a good year, folks. Take care.